Hey everyone, this is Pooka back with round 5 of the Glendale, Wisconsin Battle Road. Both of these players are 4-0. We have Max Cross on the left and Franco Llamas on the right. So this matchup is just going to be a Rayquaza Eelektrik deck on the left, and then Franco is playing a Darkrai Hydreigon deck. He is on the right. He has that nice looking Rayquaza and Umbreon playmat. Really spiffy looking. It was actually drawn by somebody who was also at the tournament. So he's going to start off with a Charon to draw 3, and then a Level Ball. Looks like he's opening with a Dino against a Rayquaza EX. The Attack of the Glare has returned, so you can't really see what Max's active Pokemon is, but it is a Rayquaza EX. So we'll see how quickly Franco can get set up here. And this should be an interesting matchup. These statistically are the two most popular and most successful decks at Battle Road so far. Eelektrik being overall the most successful, and then Hydreigon right behind it in second. So it'll be a battle between widely considered the two top decks in the format, and we should see an interesting match either way. So right off the bat, Franco's just taking a look to see what's prized, what's in his deck, and grabs a second Dino. You'll see he's playing the Darkness type Dino that's weak to fighting. This is something that most people do nowadays just because the shiny Rayquaza exists that does 40 damage for 1 energy, which would actually knock out a Dragon type Dino. So if you're wondering why people prefer to play the Dark type Dino, that is why. So he's just going to Level Ball for the second one, and it looks like he's going to play that down. See if he has an energy or anything like that. Looks like he does. So let's see if he plays it on the active and headbutts, or if he puts it on the bench one. Looks like he's just going to attach to the active Dino. And it looks like we're going to start off with a nice headbutt for 10 damage on that Rayquaza EX. Ouch. Alright, let's see how Max's start goes. He does have the Rayquaza EX. He's just going to attach a fire straight away. And he has an Ultra Ball. He's probably just going to... Yeah, he's going to discard the Lightning and the Random Receiver. He could Charon or Juniper this hand away. It's a tough spot. I mean, he's got the Random Receiver, Charon, and Juniper in hand. This is something that you run into quite a bit with today's supporters. I mean, the Random Receiver gets you a supporter. It's not really discarding one, but it's discarding a card that can get you a supporter at the very least. And then you have to decide, do I want to play the Charon? If I play the Charon and draw 3, then I might just draw another Juniper. And then eventually when I have to play my Juniper, I have to discard everything. Or do I just play the Juniper now, discard the Charon and the Eelektrik? And let's see. Looks like, oh, he wanted to play the Juniper, he accidentally played it, and then played the Charon instead. Looks like he probably was better off just playing the Juniper, because he drew another Charon and an Eelektrik. Now Max also he Ultra Balled for another Rayquaza EX. I don't really understand that one. He probably should have went for a Dynamo, just to get an Eelektrik into play, so he could start using Dynamotor. He also had a very ugly Celestial Roar. I ended up discarding 3 cards and not even getting an energy. So yeah, I'm really confused as to why he went for a second Rayquaza instead of going for the Dynamo setup. Usually you need Dynamos in play as soon as possible, just to get Eelektriks in place. You can start to use Dynamotor and power up your stuff. And it looks like he discarded, I saw an N, a Communication, and maybe a Juniper off of his top 3 cards. Those are absolutely devastating cards to be discarding. Especially when eventually it looks like you're going to have to Juniper and discard a bunch of resources anyway. So if you're Max, it was probably better to just bite the bullet and Juniper the first time. The Charon is very risky. You can always draw into an N, and then you can shuffle in those supporters and you don't have to discard them. But in a lot of cases, it's better just to Juniper and cut your losses there, so then you don't have to discard even more resources when you draw the 3 cards. But I can understand using that Charon. It looks like Franco is using an Ultra Ball for a Darkrai EX, and he's got the rare candy, and there it is, the Hydreigon in hand already. He just discarded 2 Dark Energy with his Ultra Ball. That might have been a questionable decision because he doesn't actually have an energy after this one. But he will, he'll have a solid start. The only problem is he does not have any supporters. And he's just going to Dark Trance up to his Darkrai. He's not going to be able to attack this turn, but he probably thinks, oh, this is the only thing that's safe. So I'm just going to throw that up there. And now Max, oh, he's going to Charen and get 2 more energy searches and a switch. He top-decked an energy search for the turn. And it looks like he's not going to be short on energy anytime soon, but he has one ugly hand, did not improve in the least. And I don't know where he's going to go from here. I think he has a switch and a catcher in hand. He could catcher out the Dino, take a knockout there with Dragon Burst, but you got to think he doesn't have too much beyond that. He could take down. He's actually going to target down the Hydreigon, which is a weird play. He can hit it for 120, but then if Franco has a max potion, he's really just going to waste that energy, waste that turn. And that's not something you want to do. Maybe the better play is just to save the catcher for the turn where you can Dragon Burst and knock it out. That way you take away his energy acceleration, or his energy manipulation, and you gain the advantage that way. But this is not going to help you very much. It's going to hit the Hydreigon for 120, so then maybe if you draw another catcher you can knock it out, but then you've wasted 2 catchers, and you're just going to have to attach and discard the energy anyway. So you're getting to the same spot you would have just playing 1 catcher instead. So maybe better off just taking the Dino or waiting a turn and then hitting the Hydreigon. Looks like Franco does not have anything going for him though. He's just used Ultra Ball to discard a Registeel, EX, and another trainer I didn't quite catch, but either way that's not a great hand for him. He went for a Sableye, but there's nothing to really get out of his discard pile. Maybe he can get like a rare candy. He has a second Hydreigon in hand, but he hasn't played a random receiver. There's not going to be anything useful. He can get back maybe a catcher too. He hasn't played any dark patches either. And yeah, looks like he's taking the rare candy and the catcher. So it looks like Max will be fine still. He is being very hesitant to not discard those 2 Eeelektriks in his hand, but he's going to have to do it at some point. This might just be the turn to do it. He's going to go ahead and play an energy search. Search his deck. Probably grab a lightning, that is what he's discarded the first time. And he might just grab another one with his other energy search. Yeah, he played 2 down. So he just grabs 2 lightning. And he's going to attach 1 to the active and then Juniper the other way, just to get it in the discard for Eelektrik, if he can ever manage to get 1 into play. We still haven't even seen a Dynamo from him. And he's going to have to discard 2 Eelektriks, which is a pitiful situation for him. It's just not going well. Rayquaza, unless you're playing the quad Rayquaza deck where you can Celestial Roar and, excuse me, and power things up, or power yourself up with Celestial Roar by playing enough energy where that actually works, you really don't get anywhere. And let's see, Max, he's debating whether or not to use that Juniper. He knows he doesn't want to discard those 2 Eelektrik, but he doesn't have a choice. If he waits to top deck something, it's going to be too late. And he's actually going to Celestial Roar here, and wow, he gets a pretty good one actually. 2 energy off the top. And this could actually turn out very well for him. He'll be able to knock out at least like a Sableye. But Franco does get a Dark Patch here, so he will be able to Night Sphere this turn if he wants to. But he'll be able to knock out something by discarding 2 energy and then follow it up by discarding the 3 energy to knock out that Darkrai EX. So unless Franco has an Eevee to go with his Darkrai, he really doesn't have many options going for him. Franco does have that catcher, so maybe he could buy some time, just drag something out. If he doesn't want to risk attacking with the Darkrai, he could just say, you know, I'm just going to catcher, junk hunt for the catcher, and then get a Dark Patch back. Just get a little more set up before I go anywhere. But he's saying, you know what, I'm just going to go for it. Going to send up Darkrai. I don't have any cards in my hand, so I'm just going to try to take a prize and go from there. And really, if Max has a switch and an energy, he could take a huge knockout on this Darkrai EX, taking out all 3 energy from Franco's board. Franco has no cards in his hand, and Max draws another Juniper. So this is the feared situation where you have gone through so many supporters at this point. He's discarded a bunch with Celestial Roar. He had to discard He's going to have to discard 2 here with Juniper, and then, you know, he just won't have much left as the game goes on. If Franco ever gets an N, he's going to be in a world of hurt because he's just going to have not many supporters left in his deck. Besides probably N, which, as the game goes on, will not help him at all. But he did draw the switch. This is going to be very important. He has an Ultra Ball as well. He discards a Charon, which is a puzzling choice. He really needs a supporter to draw more cards, and he decides to discard the Charon instead. And it looks like he's playing at a turn early to get his Eelektrik. There's no real reason to do that. You can just wait until the turn where you're able to evolve your Dynamo. Then you can grab the Eelektrik. If you get End, then so be it. Then, I mean, you wouldn't have the Eelektrik in your hand anyway. And so he's just kind of wasting resources there for no real reason. Maybe you even draw the Eelektrik off of your Charon and you don't have to discard resources. But he's still in a favorable position. Franco just drew another Sableye and passed. And now Max is getting in the Eelektrik into play. He's going to start using Dynamotor, power stuff up. He actually attaches to the benched Rayquaza EX. That means he won't be able to even attack this turn. Maybe an oversight by him. He could use Celestial Roar if he really wants to, but that might be too big of a risk at this point. So, not really anything great going for him, but Franco again just draws and passes. This is going to be an ugly game, it looks like. Max could just take the knockout here. He's actually going to switch to the bench Rayquaza. Interesting decision. And then he's going to catcher out that Hydreigon that he catchered out earlier and take a knockout on that one. Okay, so he's just powering up the next one for a big hit with Dragon Burst. And let's see, does Franco finally... Oh, he finally draws that Juniper. Here we go. Maybe we'll have a game here, folks. Now, Franco is down 3 prizes, but he does have the Hydreigon in play. He... Max has just burned through tons of resources at this point. So, all it could take is just an N at some point, or it might not even have to be N. Max has just played so many resources that he doesn't even have any in his hand. So if Franco can just knock out maybe the Eelektrik and then take down a Rayquaza, that could really be game over. Max could just run out of steam. So I don't know if that's going to happen. There's still a lot of stuff that has to go Franco's way. He needs an energy, first of all. If he doesn't have one of those this turn, he's going to be in a ton of trouble. Otherwise, he can junk hunt for a Dark Patch and maybe get something going on the following turn. But beyond that, it's really going to be tough for him. He does not have any energy in play. Dark Patch is going to be his only hope at this point. And Max, even though he doesn't have a ton of stuff at his disposal, he's got a Rayquaza pretty much pumped up. And he can Dynamotor to it next turn, get a big Dragon Burst. And maybe he'll just be able to win by brute force before Franco can even set up. So right here, he's going to Ultra Ball and grabs another Darkrai, which he'll certainly need. You need the free retreat. That really makes the deck flow the way it does, so you don't have to discard your energy every time you retreat. And also Darkrai, of course, is an exceptional attacker. But does he have the energy to even power it up quite yet? It's going to be tough. The other thing going for Franco is that I don't believe Max has many catchers left. He's played at least 2. I don't know if he's discarded any additional ones. Probably not, but he's only got 2 catchers left at the most. And Franco does get an Eviolite on his Darkrai. That is going to be huge. That's going to give him... It's going to force Max to use 1 extra energy to Dragon Burst for a knockout, unless he plays Tool Scrapper, which he would have to draw into. So Eviolite, of course, always going to be a huge card in every matchup, pretty much. And this is no exception. It forces you to burn a 4th energy with Dragon Burst to get a knockout. So, let's see if Max can seal the deal here. Like I said, he's got the 3 prize lead, but his board is pretty fragile. Once you discard your energy and you lose your Eelektrik, your deck doesn't really function that well, and you just kind of fall apart. He has an Energy Search in hand, which I believe that's his 4th one. So he can go ahead and play that, which he will. probably grab a Lightning. And looks like he's just going to attach to the active. He could retreat and Dragon Burst, get a knockout here on that Sableye. But then he would be putting that pumped up Rayquaza in harm's way. So maybe he'll decide to go another route. Maybe taking the prize is the best route, though. Taking the energy off Franco's board would be a big swing in the game. It's going to make him have a ton more stuff in order to get a knockout next turn. So yeah, he's just going to retreat and Dragon Burst. Going to take the knockout on that Sableye. And Max still doesn't have anything good in his hand, but he's got a 4-prize lead at this point. As long as he can keep powering up Rayquazas, he can win this game, no problem. Franco, he does have a Dark Patch and a Catcher in hand. So if he can manage to knock out that Eelektrik this turn, he's going to be in a fine position. I think he'll actually, honestly, be the favorite to win because he has the N in his hand. He'll be able to draw 6. He'll put Max down to 2. Max is pretty much done with supporters for the rest of the game. There's like 3 or 4 Junipers in his discard pile. And like 2 or 3 Charons as well as an N. N won't really help him, it'll only get him 2 cards. So Max might just be out of supporters, out of resources. He kind of burned everything at the beginning to get this huge lead. And now it could be time for Franco to make a comeback. N, of course, is the comeback card of choice. And if he can score another Dark Patch this turn, and an Energy, he could just Night Spear this Eelektrik, get a knockout, and take the game from there. Does he get it though? Doesn't look like it. At the very least, I suppose he can just, move the energy up to Sableye and Junk Hunt for a Dark Patch. Hope that Max doesn't have a switch, and go from there. It's going to be tough to dodge a Dragon Burst knockout for the rest of the game on one of his EXs, though. So he's really going to have to hope that Max just does not have anything anymore. And Max really doesn't. He has, what? He's got nothing in his hand. Franco's just going to take a look and see, alright, what do you got? Is it possible for you to win next turn if you draw all the right stuff? And technically it is, yes. If Max were to get a switch, an energy, and a catcher, he could catcher the Mewtwo and Dragon Burst for the game. He's got the switch already. But does he have the rest of the cards he needs to pull this one out? Franco's just gonna see, alright, what are you working with still? How many supporters have you used? Are there any lightning in your discard? How many switches have you used? We do have a nice base set switch, by the way, from Max, which is pretty neat. And what will Franco decide to do? He should probably Junk Hunt just to get the Dark Patch. At the worst, you get back your Dark Patch and you end up with the same amount of energy you had in play if the Sableye gets knocked out. Looks like he might have announced Junk Hunt without moving the energy. But, alright, Max says, no big deal, I know you can do that. Not gonna do that to you. Now, he does draw a switch, but it doesn't look like he has the catcher to win the game. So he could have pulled that off, but he doesn't quite have it. And now he's just gonna Dynamotor onto his bench Rayquaza. He could just, wait until an EX comes out and then Dragon Burst for the win. But he's deciding to take out the Sableye, put the pressure on Franco. He's saying, alright, if you don't do something soon, I'm going to win. And if you don't have the cards to win, then I'm just going to Dragon Burst you, and it's going to be game over. Now, the fortunate thing for Franco is that he has not used many resources so far. Every time he's used a catcher, he's been able to Junk Hunt. And he's only really used 1 Dark Patch. So if he can get a catcher and bring out Max's Rayquaza EX with all those energy on it, it's already got 40 damage. He could just X-Ball and knock it out. Looks like there's 3 energy on the benched guy. That would be a pretty easy knockout. Because it's got 130 hit points left. Actually, it would take 4 energy in play from Franco to get a knockout on that thing, but that's really got to be his target at this point. Or Eelektrik, that works too. So that Max can't Dynamotor and power that thing up. So we'll probably just see a Night Spear. He will hit the Eelektrik for the knockout, obviously. Probably 30 on that Rayquaza EX. And so he can just kind of X-Ball for it next turn, and he gets 2 Dark Patches. So like I said, he's got tons of resources left. He'll be able to get a bunch of energy in play, and he can go any route he really wants to. He can X-Ball, or he can just Night Spear. Since he's already catchered out the Eelektrik, obviously he's going to Night Spear this turn. Might as well just take the 30 bench damage for free, and have a Pokemon with an Eviolite on it. But he's got a 3rd Eviolite, so Mewtwo's even going to be safe from pretty much everything. And now, 2 more Dark Patches, but this still has to be a little bit scary for Franco. If Max top decks a catcher, this is game over. He just knocks out the Hydreigon, and boom, takes his last prize, that's it. So he's going to need, he's going to need to top deck a catcher, otherwise he's just going to be in trouble. I don't know how he can actually take another prize without catching out that Hydreigon. All these EXs are way too buff with their Eviolite, and 180, 170 hit points. There's not enough energy in play for Max. The Eelektrik is gone. He doesn't have any more Dynamos out there. I know you can't really see with the glare, but the other 2 Pokemon are just Zekrom and another Rayquaza EX, I believe. So, no energy acceleration in sight. I don't believe he plays double colorless, so outraging with Zekrom won't even be an option. So his best choice might just be, you know what, hope for catcher. You might want to promote the Rayquaza with just the 1 energy. If you draw the catcher, you can always retreat and win that way. If you don't, you can just Celestial Roar, hope for the best, hope to power up 2 Rayquazas. So we'll see which one Max decides to promote. It's a tricky decision, but I think he's going to make the right choice, and he does. You get to Dynamo, which is a good thing for him. He might have considered playing the Communication just because he doesn't really want to draw that anymore. It's going to be a dead card. He really needs to draw catcher here. He probably has 1 or 2 left. And this is going to be a huge draw here. If he draws the catcher, it's game over. Franco will lose. Max will win. But if he doesn't, I mean, he's going to be in a rough spot. He draws a Lightning, and I don't know where he's going to put that. If he puts it on the bench, Rayquaza, that's not really going to help him at all. He's got 2 Fire and a Lightning, so it's not going to do a whole lot. He might just be better off putting it on the active, which he does, and he should probably Celestial Roar, but he's just going to Dragon Burst for 40, which is definitely not going to help him. Too many things can happen with, you know, number 1, Franco could just retreat to the other Darkrai. Number 2, he could just Max Potion. So you're better off just using Dragon or Celestial Roar to try to get lucky, get a bunch of energy. But at the same time, you could potentially discard more resources that you don't want to get rid of. So I can see the apprehension there as well. But Franco, you know, he was down 6-1. And all of a sudden, it looks like he's in a good position to win. Max has no hand. Most of his supporters are gone. He has no Eelektrik. What does he do? If Franco has a catcher here, he could catch out the Dynamo and knock out both that and the Zekrom, putting him at 3 prizes. He still has to knock out 2 EXs, though. So maybe his best option is to catcher out that Rayquaza with a bunch of damage on it and all the energy. And then move all his energy to his Mewtwo, say YOLO, and X-Ball for the knockout. And just kind of hope Max doesn't top deck a supporter, because that's really the only way he could do anything about the big Mewtwo. So Franco has a catcher, he should probably consider doing that, and that's what he's going to do. He's going to bring out that Rayquaza EX with all the energy on it. This is really the last hope for Max. He didn't have anything beyond this. He was just kind of hoping to draw something that turn. He didn't draw the catcher. And just like this, he's got no board presence. He's got no real energy in play. He's got no Eelektrik. And Mewtwo is knocking on his door. Franco is fully set up. Even though he's only... Max only has 1 prize left. He can't take it. He's got no cards. And this is what can happen when you burn through your resources too quickly. Especially with N in the format. Looks like he's just going to promote the Zekrom with a bunch of damage on it. That actually would be a fine play since it's going to be knocked out pretty much no matter what. So yeah, he should probably just send that up It's dead in the water already, but he's going to promote that Rayquaza EX. I don't like that play just because it's going to set him up to lose in 2 turns. If Franco just retreats and Night Spears, he can hit that for 90, Zekrom for 30, knock it out, and then it's just one more attack and Franco wins the game. So Max was better off promoting the Zekrom there, I think. But either way, he's going to have some trouble because his prizes are... or his hand is gone. He has nothing left. And I think we're going to see Franco make a 6-1 comeback here. So it just goes to show you, never be complacent until the game is completely over. You can be up 5 prizes and you can still just lose very easily. Especially with a deck like Hydreigon, which just has Max Potion at its disposal and all that good stuff. And it looks like Franco's just going to go ahead and Night Spear. He's going to move some energy around. This probably doesn't matter at all, but it's okay. Max is just asking whether or not you can move around the Blend Energy too, which of course you can. It provides a Dark Energy. So hopefully we don't have to do anything regarding that. Looks like Max is like, okay, I understand. And we're going to see a Night Spear. I would hope. Franco doesn't pass. So he's going to Night Spear and then do 30 to that Zekrom. And just like that, he's down to 2 prizes. Just one more attack, he'll win the game. And that's an Ultra Ball. Max can't use that. He cannot do that. Unless that's a Max Potion. I don't think it can double as a Max Potion, but Franco's just going to retreat to his Hydreigon and Dragon Blast for the game. He could have just Night Speared, but I guess he wanted to go for the overkill. But just like that, Franco will make a 6-1 comeback, and he will move to 5-0. Looks like Max actually had a couple supporters left in his deck and some random receivers, so he definitely had a shot still. There was a catcher there too, but he didn't leave himself with many options. And eventually, he opened the door for Franco to make a big comeback. 6-1 comeback. Great game. So thanks for watching, guys. This has been Round 5 from the Glendale, Wisconsin Battle Road. We'll be back with Round 6, the final round, to see who emerges as the winner.